swallowed the red pill back in 2008 and began reporting the news in front of a camera in 2019. In that time, we've seen a complete upheaval in world politics. The battle lines have changed between the illusion of left versus right to the reality of globalism versus nationalism. Despite all the information, the truth and the lies, there are two very distinct pathways emerging. Should we follow Labor and Liberal to a dystopic one-world government, or do we fight for our nationalism, unlock our hidden resources wealth and build a new Australia? With the world teetering on a knife's edge, should we solidify our relationship with the USA and become the 51st state? This is my mission statement here on Australian National Review, and I welcome you to black pill me as hard as you can as we determine our future together. This is the 51st state. Hello and welcome to the 51st state. Well, where are we today in terms of solidarity within political parties? I mean, in Australia, the Labor Party, it's part of their rules. You must vote along party lines or you will be suspended from that party forever. The Labor Party also demands that you cannot have been a member of another political party before you join it, whereas other political parties don't have such a rule. So is this solidarity the reason why the Labor Party is holding so much power federally in Australia and across most of the states? Or is it that it's just the pendulum swinging in this country as it is in many around the world and a reaction to the rise of populism in the United States? How dare the people really want what they want, right? But it seems that there is that great division now. So the question remains, why isn't there a form of solidarity on the other side of the political spectrum? Well, this is a great question to ask because there is a split in, of course, Australia, the Liberals and the National Party, and that split is over the division over net zero. And in the United States, there is a conceived new Republican Party movement within the party, the so-called woke rights, another definition, versus the establishment. Really, there's three, because there's MAGA, there's the new right, and there's the rhinos, or the establishment political parties. So we'll explore all of that in today's show, and my guest, Phil Dann, will be with me after the break, and we'll get into that exploration of what's really going on inside the Republican Party, the split within, and can they work together to secure victory in the midterms coming up in 2026, to further the Trump MAGA agenda, to bring about the necessary change that that country needs in order to be able to change off and push away the globalists once and for all and allow America to become great again. We'll get into all of that after the break. You're watching the 51st State.
Australian National Review is Australia's first real free and independent press. One with no editorial control by the elite, but a publication that can generate critical thinkers and critical debate, and hold those spreading mistruths and deliberate propaganda in mainstream media to account. News with a difference that will be educational, compelling, and create a platform for political and social change in this country, and address the real issues facing this country and the world.
And welcome back to the 51st State. My guest this hour, Phil Dann, is a former leftist agitator and volunteer and activist for Donald Trump's 2016, 2020 and 2024 campaigns. He's also a businessman, conservative radio talk show host in Metro Tampa Bay, Florida, where he was or is a talk show host on WWPR 1490 AM. Also, program director. Phil Dann, welcome to the 51st State.
Oh, welcome to White People Radio, WWPR.
Didn't even know you were allowed to say that anymore.
I know.
Hilarious.
You can't say it.
You can't say it.
You know, with Nick Fuentes out there, you can say F you, you know, and then, Tucker Carlson had him on his show, so maybe there's some hope for me.
It's meant to be a contest of ideas, but at the moment, I'm just finding that it doesn't matter who you want to debate with. If the mind is set, that's the end of the discussion. And it kind of feels like everything else is superfluous from that point. And it doesn't matter how many facts that you bring up, etc. And you can still argue with people over the COVID vaccine, and they're either for or against. And the vaccine zealots, therefore, can take nothing for an answer. They just want to mock everyone. And then whenever it comes down to it, when you present to them, even a scientific article, the response is, well, I'm not dead. I've taken 25 vaccines and I'm still here. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. Why did subjectivity overtake objectivity? But then you're telling me that I can't speak because I'm not a doctor. So you rely on credentials when you want to get your way. But when I present to you facts, all of a sudden you go subjective anecdotal evidence. I just don't understand where that mentality comes from, Phil. Are you dealing with something similar over there in Florida?
Well, the funny thing is that when you're dealing with Democrats, and you go through that little dance between having evidence and having the credentials. They credential you, and when you get to the point of you've absolutely destroyed, their argument, or you've presented an argument to them that's either factually based or it's credential based. Like, yes, I'm I've done this, and I've got these credentials. You still get dismissed, and We've had some pretty, I think for some conservatives, the Charlie Kirk assassination, which was as brutal as it gets, they're out mocking him. They're out mocking. We have teachers. Now, these are math teachers. These aren't the soft-headed intellectuals that, carry on in the social studies departments. By the way, Florida is doing away with all the social studies courses in the high school level. So there's no more of that silliness going on. But you have math teachers now. And I mean, they've regaled themselves they've dressed up in T-shirts with blood all over them, pretending to shoot themselves in the neck. I mean, I think it shocked a lot of people into understanding what sort of depravity we're up against. And so it's like you can have these arguments with people in your own party, and they definitely have their mind set up, and there's a little movement there, if any at all. And you can't really deal with those. You can kind of deal with people in the Republican Party on this level where they are reachable, some of them, but a lot of them are not. And the Democrats that have taken over the Democrat Party are presenting an image that is frightening people. It's definitely frightening people who are in the conservative movement, the MAGA movement. They're beginning to realize a lot of people who are in the MAGA movement are not really ideologues. They're not Democrats. I mean, they're not Republicans. Certainly, they're independents for the most part. So they are more open to new ideas. They're open to having civil conversations with people from both parties. But the Republican Party rhino class is taking firm control of the Republican Party in the United States right now. It's a I don't want to call it they're lashing back or they're striking out. They're not. They're doing what we saw Romney do in Massachusetts and other states as well. The AOTs that were in the AOTs in the what's the other family that run New Hampshire? and they're just going to take firm control of the Republican Party. And there's very little ways, there's very little methodology to break through, because in order to become a Republican with voting rights, you have to be allowed into the Republican Party to sign in. It's very strict in a lot of cases, especially here in Florida. And so I'm in an organization down here in Manatee County, which is right next to Sarasota, one of the more powerful and wealthy county organizations in the country. They are only allowing the absolute faithful into those meetings. And those are the people that are going to vote on who's going to make up the committee that represent the state. And so you can't get in to vote. It's like Woody Allen's dream. I wouldn't become a member of an organization that would have me as a member. They're not letting anybody in. It's a country club that's absolutely closed. They're not taking on any new members. And so it's leaving some young activists to go out and try to start third parties, which is always suicidal. There is a way to deal with these people, and that is to just run successful campaigns. And that's what got us into trouble. We ran a very successful 2024 election campaign at the local level. It flew in the face of all of the statewide organization handpicked candidates. And so we won big time down here, and everybody was amazed at how we did it. And it was, the old fashioned way, going door to door, having direct voter contact. And we are the grassroots part of the Republican Party of Florida. And we're having a actually demonstration against the Republican Party of Florida in Orlando this Friday. And I'll be there for that. Maybe I can get some footage for you.
That's brilliant, Phil. You've made a number of points, and I want to relate it back because this is a very unique show here, which I call the 51st state, coming out of Australia, where the majority of the people I speak to are from the United States, where we effectively compare notes on the different problems we have, given that Australia sits in a sort of a globalist soup bowl, and America is trying to escape that, building Fortress America around MAGA. But you made a very important point there where you called going to create a third party suicidal. Now, I, for one, am a member of a third party and have been a member of a different third party. But my strategy this time around is that unless this particular third party, which is well-credentialed, has great policy, has a terrific president and leader, former Senator Jared Rennick, unless the party merges, it's wasting its time. We can ill afford to be another 1% party if that's the point. And I say that wearing my heart on my sleeve in that situation. But here's my point. You also said that the way that the Republicans were able to do that, or the way you were able to achieve success, was old school door knocking and getting your point across. Where I'm going with that, Phil, is that if 10 different third parties are knocking on doors and actually doing the hard yards, would that make an iota of difference amongst those that are receiving the person knocking at their door? Or is this a strategy that is only reserved for the two parties? And therefore, is there some analysis that you can consider, maybe to reflect to Australians who may be watching this, to convince them that that door knocking only applies between the two major parties? That's when it would be effective. Is that accurate?
No, basically the only way forward for countries like yours that have multiple parties, like the Dutch have like 20 major national parties. I put on the internet last week or this week, because that elections won't save the Dutch or Western European countries. I hate to say this, Jason, they're lost, and it will only be through a force of arms that they get their countries back. And we are lucky enough where we have a two-party system, and we can influence our state parties and by winning elections. And we still have that window open for us. If we go and we start several parties, and this isn't my analysis. There's a young woman from Holland that she's an attorney. she's constantly, you probably know who she is, that made the statement, I'm going to say 6 to 8 months ago, but she did not she did not make the statement that it will be up to a force of arms to take your country back. And I don't see any other way out for Belgium, Denmark, Germany. I don't, or France. I don't see them as being able to vote their way back. Now, you can vote your way into socialism, but you've got to shoot your way out of it. And that's where they're at right now. We thankfully have not reached that point. We may have to do some bloodletting here in the U.S. to get back certain areas of the country because they've been taken over by the Islamists and Detroit and cities throughout, especially Texas and New England, where they've been taken. They're taken over, and mosques are being established on a rapid pace. We have no idea where their funding is coming from. It's not in the U.S. It's not an organic movement here in the U.S. I can't remember this young lady's name. And anyway, she was pointing out that the multi-party systems and I think she was speaking about Germany actually, because they had just lost that election, because there's so many different small party splits. Even if your candidate wins with the most votes, they can't form a government that it can effectively address some of the most important issues. And the most important issue in Europe is illegal immigration and the replacement of the native-born population with this monstrous group of people. And I'm not even saying that I'm not speaking ethnically. I'm speaking like when you import garbage, that's what you have. And they're importing garbage. These people are monsters. Yes. We just that horrific stabbing on the train the other day. And then you had the BBC come out and say, well, it wasn't a terrorist act. Well, what the hell else was it? And they still haven't released the name of the Islamists that did it. That's how this is how you know that there's been a crime committed in the United States by a black person. They don't release any information about the assailant. And then days later, if you're lucky, oh yeah, it was this guy. Okay. And that isn't me saying that. That's what's her name from that blonde chick that's now persona non grata with the Trump campaign, who actually helped make his case for him. The heck is her name? She's a great writer, very acerbic. She's got like a Dorothy Parker wit to her, and the future for our country looks a little brighter each and every day, because Trump is not backing off. In an interview here with 60 Minutes over the weekend, and he just laid into them when they asked him, "Oh, do you think it's harsh what they're doing in the streets?" He says, "It's not harsh enough." Well, we've got two things that are going on in the United States that are a little disturbing but not unexpected, and that is the Catholic Church is standing behind the illegal immigrants, and they're running a narrative. There's a group of people that are saying they're Catholics, that are saying that they represent Pope Leo, and I honestly don't believe that they do, and maybe they do to a certain extent. I'm not sure where the Pope is at with this, but this is very, very important, and they're saying that we have no right to remove these people from our country, even forcibly. And Jason, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the State Department and Homeland Security is offering $1,000+ to people who will just get on the plane, will pay for your plane ticket, and will give you $1,000 to go home. Just go to any airport, say, "Listen, I'm here illegally. I need to go home. Put me on a plane, the next plane to El Salvador, the next plane to Bolivia, the next place to Argentina." And I don't know if the Pope is aware of that. And that's a very generous. I think that Denmark is doing something like this, aren't they? They're actually paying people to go home. But if you don't get on that plane and we catch you, then you're never ever going to be able to come back to the United States. Now, I actually have another business, and I sell credit card and ATM equipment and processing contracts. And many of my customers who are Hispanic, and they have actually gone home and gotten their paperwork straightened out and come back.
That's interesting, isn't it? That's
Yes.
because you want to officially come in and play
Right.
by the rule of law and become part of what you believe the United States is meant to be, which indicates that you don't want to bring it down. On the contrary, you want to build it up. It's that
That's
real
right.
JFK moment, isn't it? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Well, I'm going to go home. I'm going to get myself sorted. I'm going to come back and become a United States citizen. It just makes sense. Like there's a line in the sand for you.
And there's something that goes on, and I know this is true in Mexico because one of my merchant partners, she told me about this. Like if you go back to Mexico and your papers aren't straightened out, you actually can go to somebody in the government and hand them like $500 or $200 wherever you're from, depending on what region you're from, because all the regions are different. Mexico's a gigantic country, and they'll just get your paperwork fixed, and they'll give you, they'll get your passport together for you, and they'll get you back into the United States.
Fabulous,
You just have to have a little bit of money to get it done.
Yes.
So, and these people are quite wealthy. I mean, we have merchants up here. We have people that are making money up here that have some serious payola. I mean, brand new Ford F-150 car, super trucks. I have a number of food truck customers, and their stuff is gorgeous, top of the line equipment. They
big money.
all have
It's just
great cars. They're
Yes,
doing
yes.
great. Good for
Yes.
them. But they're willing to go home and get their stuff straightened out. Not everybody can do that. That's understandable. But there should be. The United States is displaying some incredible humanity and helping people who have literally helped themselves to the public trough, at great expense to this country. I mean, we are talking multi-generational debt because of this this program by the Biden administration, which is an illegal, corrupt operation. What they did in 2020, Steve Bannon really brings to bear how corrupt and illegal that administration was from the day it was sworn into office. And what they did here, I don't know if you've experienced it there with the January 6 people. That's just that's the iceberg that sits out there off the the coast of Washington D.C. Never mind the stolen election.
You make so many important points because when you accuse Trump of all of these crimes and you then go and have these court cases and then you have these ridiculous convictions and 34 convictions, etc., which all leads to no penalty, you paint a picture to the American people that they are the criminal when you're projecting, and therefore any reverse accusation going the other way looks like sour grapes in the eyes of the people, because until you've actually got convictions in a court of law and the evidence is obvious. I mean, look at Letitia James out campaigning with Zoran Mamdani, right behind him as if she's some sort of patron saint. Just quickly, is the Dutch lady you're speaking about Eva Vladingerbroek? Is that the lady you were talking about?
It is, yes.
Yeah, I just put a picture up on screen because she's
Sure.
she's a knockout, and she's as she speaks as brilliantly as she looks, and she's been quite a powerful person.
Right. She is an attorney.
Yes, yeah,
So,
and incredibly talented lady. You'd love to
another
see
reason
her one
to
day.
dislike her.
Yeah, that's right. You can imagine one day that she will be holding a position of political power.
Imagine
in that
being her
country,
husband. I mean,
yeah, look out, everyone. Yeah,
you don't stand a chance, and that you're doing the dishes for the rest of your life. So, I'm kidding, of course, but she is the Joan of Arc of her day, and she is trying to save her country. The Dutch people will not save themselves. they were neutered. The men were neutered a long time ago, maybe in the 1960s and 1970s. They pulled on their bell bottoms, but they had their, snipped before they did. I don't know if it's the Gouda cheese or whatever it was, the wooden shoes, but it's the women that are standing up for that country. I can't believe what has transpired, especially in the Scandinavian countries. Did you know in the 1970s, the Swedish people, the Swedish men, were burning down McDonald's? They were not allowing American culture to come into their country because it of course is so much substandard to theirs, that they were trying to protect Swedish culture. They had very strict borders. A friend of mine was not a dark-skinned Portuguese guy, but he was, he wasn't light-skinned, if you will. And like me, he was incredibly good-looking. But in spite of that, the Swedish wouldn't let him in.
Yeah.
And the parents weren't going to sign off because their daughter wanted to marry him. And they took one look at him and they said, "Oh, no way, he's the N-word." They literally. And that the Portuguese people suffered a great deal of that racism in the United States. He was somewhat familiar with it. I was stunned when I ran into it because, I just, as I'm literally from South Boston, and you want to talk about racism. The Boston racists are, they're infamous. I think we were the last sports teams in the country to have any black players. Both hockey, not hockey, but basketball and baseball, football. We were the last. I mean, all three sports teams.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you're talking really about a guess who's coming to dinner moment there. Where's certainly in Sweden.
My buddy, he didn't get a chance to get off the freaking dock.
Yeah. Unreal. I want to talk to you about
what happened to them? What happened to the Swedish? What happened to the Norwegians? What happened to the Finns? It was DEI. It was the EU shoving it down their throats.
So here's where I want to get to. Is this and the rise of DEI to the point of I look at it from two ways: opportunity, or is it something else? And where is it derived from? Is it derived from a feeling of lack? Because when you've described these people that are going home to get their paperwork sorted to come back, that already have the F-150 truck and the food truck and the business, etc., and everything looks great, it appears that these particular people have a real ability or a capacity to earn, and therefore to capture the American dream for themselves, and they love everything about it. But when you have a feeling of lack and an inability to learn, what you do is you become almost dependent or leech onto the government, and therefore you are obsessed that some big invisible power is going to fund your lifestyle so long as you support the system. Is that what this is coming from? So this rise of DEI in these Scandinavian countries, for example, opening up the doors and letting people in, is as a consequence of saying, well, we've been left-wing for so long, we've had high taxes for so long, why can't we save the world the way that we think that our country, Sweden, Norway, Finland, is the greatest in the world, and therefore we open the doors, we don't quite know what we're doing, and because we trust in the government, therefore we will allow them to do this because it's just going to work itself out in the long run, and therefore I sit on my moral high horse from here onwards.
No, I think you misunderstood my admiration for the ability for these illegals making all this money as something that I hope you're not attributing it to their hard work ethic, because what they're doing is that they're stealing. They're on the government pay. They're getting welfare, and then they're getting a significant more amount of money than any American on any welfare program that we offer to native-born Americans. So, and giving an example, somebody on the average person a native-born average person getting Social Security gets around $1,250 a month, $1,250. You can't
do much.
pay your rent with that.
Of course not, no.
So you have to go and you get food stamps, you get all this other stuff, but the illegals get $3,400 jumping off the boat. Okay, wherever they're running across the border, they immediately get $3,400.
That's just
And
unsustainable.
then
isn't it?
all this other stuff, because they have all these illegal identifications, they can present themselves as being Jose Sanchez, Jesus Sanchez, Billy Sanchez. They can multiply it by 3 or 4. And then they go in and they take their food stamps and they clear out, they go and buy all the food that they go out and resell it off their food trucks.
Oh, okay.
You think I'm making this up?
No,
This is
now
going on.
you're explaining it to me. When you say food truck, I think you're telling me that these people are really good chefs or cooks. They open up a business and they're out on street corners selling lunches to everyone at $15 a hamburger or something. But no, it's completely different. It's literally
it's a criminal operation from the get-go. And my question is, and I don't have the resources to sort this out, but I believe that there are people in these other countries that are soliciting these people and getting these people to come in and say, listen, we can set you up in Florida with a job, with a place to live, free. And you're going to get like $5,000 to $6,000 a month cash from the government. We have this all worked out. And that's why when these people come north, they're paying the coyotes allegedly $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a pop to get across the border. Clearly, those people aren't paying it. And when they get here, if an NGO, a non-government organization like the Catholic Church and Catholic Charities, I'm not trying to call them out on this because I am a Catholic, and they process that person, they get paid handsomely. The NGO does. And then you have these kids that allegedly, we've got hundreds of thousands of missing kids, right? But they're recycling the kids across the border. They come across in El Paso, they go back through in Texas, they go back through on their own back to Arizona. They come back through Arizona, they go back out Texas, and it's like a revolving door. They've proven some of this. So we don't have all these missing kids. It's just that NGOs are getting paid for kids that don't exist. This has been one of the most fascinating scams, devious scams that you can come up with. What we've experienced over the last 5 years, plus the end of the Trump administration and the beginning of the Biden administration. It wasn't Joe Biden doing this. Don't get me wrong. He had nothing to do with this. In fact, I believe that it goes into the Obama camp, where the Obama holdovers, that's why they didn't leave Washington. They somehow engineered this whole thing long before Biden stole the election. The Biden team stole the election. And I think that all came out of the South Carolina conference, where Joe Biden came out and they declared Joe Biden the winner. The Democrats haven't had a clean primary since Biden. I mean, since Obama. They haven't. I mean, they haven't. They've been, you talk about a dictatorship, that the dictatorship of the Democrat Party is, goes back to the Clintons owning everything. And then it was the transfer of power went, to the Obamas. And the Clintons are just sort of like playing second fiddle to them and holding their water for them, I guess. I don't know. But what we've run into is you were bringing up how this looks like sour grapes and Trump's going after his political enemies. That's not the case at all. This is a case of we need to get back to the rule of law.
Yes.
And so that we can actually have free and fair elections again. And what's happening right now, what's happening right now, because we have a very important election where they're voting on that socialist Muslim that's coming out of New York right now. That guy was actually for the global Intifada.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I don't think anybody really, when they look at October 7th, that's a glimpse of what that looks like. And that was performative. I don't know if you watched all of that. That was performative killing and slaughter. Right.
Well, this is what so many people get their nose out of joint on both sides of the fence, and the accusation is that Israel, either allowed it to happen as an excuse to then destroy Palestine. But what I can't get past in this argument is the fact is that even if they let the door open to provoke this to happen, it happened. And that is your intifada. That is the excuse to take out a Jew, no matter who they are, where they are, anywhere around the world, in a globalist uprising against Israel, which cannot stand to reason. But it's almost been accepted. I've seen posts on social media saying there's nothing wrong with global intifada. I'm like, well, could you imagine if you reverse the roles and you said that we're going to take out all Muslims around the world? Of course, you're talking the difference between 20 million and 2 billion people. But this attitude, like it's the same as when people make this excuse that if you substitute the word black for white, you can say anything you like about white people. Even in our Australian Parliament, we've got politicians, criticising and attacking white people for being white. For goodness' sake, how is that not racist? And this double standard that goes on here, and this gets back to where we were at the beginning of the conversation, when we compare what's really happening in the world here, this upside down world, this inequity that's going on here, but also the subjectivity. As long as you come from the party of the downtrodden, you can literally say whatever you like, and anyone else who wants to fend for themselves and look after themselves and sort of stay out of the way of the government is considered to be prey, if anything. I mean, this whole idea of Mamdani saying, should there be billionaires? No. What do you mean? So what are you going to do? You're going to take from them? You're going to, and then which billionaires are you going to choose? There's Zoran. Is George Soros one that you're going to take from? Is Bill Gates one that you're going to take from? Or someone like that, or is it only the people like the Elon Musks of the world that you want to destroy in order to get your way? And this idea that that someone else's money is your money's better than theirs, that you get to choose. And like we get back to the beginning, it seems to be this horrible sickness that's going on here that sees no bottom there. And you've alluded to the fact that the only way that this is going to be resolved is through bloodshed, through war.
Linda Salsor, I think, is that her name, Linda Salsor? That animal Muslim that is always running around in the United States, fat pig. She actually today said that most of Mordani, how do you say his name?
Zoran Mamdani, yeah.
Zoran Mamdani. His money's coming from the Muslims offshore. Yeah, and she's of course not the brightest person in the world. And that's why she's probably still wearing the hijab in a free country, right? Whatever she likes. Maybe she likes to go home and after her husband's done beating the dog that he beats on her, maybe that's what she looks forward to. I have no idea how these women actually function logically. It just defies it. It defies all logic, really. Why you come to a free society and you see these women making all this money, having these wonderful cars, running around being girl bosses and stuff. And you try to justify what you're doing, being a freaking cow, literally, for these men. Literally, that's what they refer to you as. And then they go to heaven, their heaven, and they have all these virgins. You go there and you're like, what do you get? There's actually somebody who actually interviewed some Muslim women about that, and they were lost. They couldn't explain what they would be looking forward to when they went, to meet Allah. And the problem that you have with this country is that we are Muslim Lebanon. Like we're like before Lebanon let the Palestinians and Muslims into their country, they were a Christian country. And it didn't take 10 years before the Christians were being slaughtered. And driven out of the public square, and now they're a Muslim country. you're the Muslim religion. It's not a religion. It is a disease. It's killed more people than the Black Plague. They have been on the warpath since the 6th century. And they don't lose. They don't lose. They lost Spain and they lost Portugal. Then what is that area that's, from Greece? They haven't lost that completely all the way up to Austria. They almost got through Vienna. If it wasn't for the Polish, they'd be owning Europe. Now they're just breeding in Europe and taking over Europe because you got these soft-headed people in Holland, and Brussels is 70% Muslim. 70%. What's happened is that the EU has realized that if they get rid of the middle class, the white middle class, both in Europe and in the United States, they can enslave the rest of the world by using the Muslims. They'll have their foot on the throats of the world population within a generation. Yes. And so what they're getting now is that people have 401ks that, Best Buy and all these other companies contribute to. They don't have to do that anymore. They'll just work those people to death. Now, if we're going to have a war, the sooner we get after it, the better. Because as time goes by, the white population grows weaker. And the rest of the Muslim population is growing stronger. If we're going to go to war in Europe, they need to get after that as quickly as possible. And it breaks my heart to say that. I love Europe. I love traveling to Europe. I've still got a lot of Dutch friends. It's just heartbreaking. But what they've done to themselves is a lesson for us that we are not going to let that happen here.
And here we are with 3 years left in the Trump term in office, a year away from midterm elections, which could conceivably twist things around. But it's obvious now that Trump is concerned about illegal voting, etc. And with that adjustment, it could be enough to get them over the line. But you would have to think that Trump is in here for a reason, with 3 years to go, and this is part of that plan. You would think, but at the same time, there's so many people that are second guessing what's going on. And it seems, like you said, this soft-headedness at the end of the day, and pursuing injustice, but selective injustice, which is why it's so confusing. Phil, we're at the end of the discussion, but this is a discussion that needs to continue. So I'm wishing you well on your return to radio shortly, and hoping that we can catch up periodically again, because to provide this unique perspective that only you seem to be tough enough and brave enough to actually put it out there and say it in a world where independent media is meant to do what they're doing. It's been great to talk to you today.
Right back at you. And my future is probably going in radio is probably going to be in a faith-based capacity, where I'm going to be promoting very conservative, I'm going to say militant Catholicism. We are going to get back to the Pope Urban form of Catholicism, where we're going to get young men, get them fit, get them back in touch with their faith, building families, but getting ready for a fight. That's a sad fact of the matter. We've got to suck it up.
Yeah, no,
it's
absolutely.
Our turn.
Well said, and more power to you. And we watch closely because no one is bringing up these ideas. It's absolutely brilliant. Well, thanks, Phil. I look forward to catching up with you again. Thank you.
All right, Jason, take care. Thanks for having me on.
So we will take a quick break and we'll come back and conclude the show. This is the 51st State. 51st State? Well, that was a confronting interview there with Phil Dann, who normally is the funniest man on radio that I've ever spoken to, and you can just tell how serious he is. But his ideas are really, really interesting, and it just means that there's more perspective to place upon this. And nobody's perfect. And the world is a nasty place, and people are trying to defend what they have. And if it's Western democracy against the rest of the world, the globalists, the Islamists, and the cultural Marxists, as Dr. Gavin Ashton had explained to me, the former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth, then it makes sense that it is going to be blurry around the edges when people jostle for the ultimate power. And what is that power? To cull the white person, to cull all of us, to introduce Westworld with the AI robots. Goodness me, who knows what it is. But at the end of the day, you can only defend what you have and your way of life in your country. And that means that you need to get out there and become part of the political system if you want to change the rules, because you can't depend on the police or the military or anyone, and certainly not the politicians, to do that bidding for you if they don't have that as their own agenda. And that's why we talk about becoming self-sufficient versus dependent on government all along. Well, thank you for watching the 51st State today. I look forward to bringing you more shows in the future. Thank you again. We'll see you all next time.